everybody, welcome to Office Hours with Dylan Hutchison, where we highlight the great people of the channel. I'm joined by Alden Wilson. Alden, how's it going today, man?
Doing great, and yourself?
Not too shabby, although you did say pre-show that you were Dylan Hutchison today with the Shield shirt.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I don't know why we're talking to third persons here.
I appreciate you representing it. I am 100% biased, but I love the shirts. I wear them often. Um, but thanks again for coming on, man.
Hey, my pleasure. I was kind of worried that this was going to be the wrong shield and that I was wearing some competitor, but I'm glad that we cleared that one up.
Nope, that is inevitably us, and even if it was, we love our competitors. So, Alden, for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself, your origin story, if you will.
Yeah, so she's back in the 2000s, early 2000s. I got started with wanting to play video games, really. Um, my dad liked to travel a lot, and it took me with me to go, fishing, hunting, what have you. And all I had was an iPod Nano, which
Oh yeah,
you do get the ability to play solitaire on there, which is a great game, but there's only so many times you can beat solitaire without getting bored.
true.
I had found that at a local college just south of me, there was a gentleman there who had ported Linux to the iPod Nano, to the regular iPod. Um, and it started growing more in the direction of Linux on the iPod Nano, which was the iPod Linux project. So that's kind of how I got my foot in the door with security systems, breaking security, getting around security. A few generations after that, there was the iPod Touches and the iPhones where you could go to jailbreakme.com, and the
Oh
browser
yeah,
would crash, inject the payload, and you would have a secondary app store that let you download apps that you wanted. Not the apps that Apple wanted, but apps that you wanted. And so again, it was just, the way for me to play games and get some customization going. At the same time,
the
I kind of
free
got
in-app
started.
purchases.
Well, Cydia had plenty of fun things. Tap Tap Revolution before that went to get big, and then rhythm games kind of took off. But I think they've petered off now. I don't really see many rhythm games unless you think like Subway Surfers is a rhythm game.
Right. No, that's a good call, dude. That's like unlocking so many core memories that I've forgotten about. The days of jailbreaking my iPod and inevitably my iPhones. That and probably was the reason that those crashed so early. Um, yeah. Now thinking about that, I will go ahead and apologize to my mom and dad publicly of why I ruined my phones and needed new ones. Um, man, talk about some core memories. So okay, let's then going
That
into
past
like yeah.
past that kind of got elementary school, middle school, where I started tinkering with a bit bigger of hardware. I started getting into the school servers and running private servers there. So we had a little WoW server going on at school. We had a web forum that we had where we would share homework. Um, and I mean for the early 2000s, it wasn't anything crazy. You hear these stories from plenty of people in the industry where they're doing this, but when you're that young, you don't really realize that everyone else is doing it. And back then we didn't have our Discords. IRC was a bit IRC was still a bit, beyond my age range, and so it was, just a lot of that stuff. And then pivoting that, I had a really great English teacher in high school who was very forward thinking, and she had moved the class to using Twitter a lot. And this was in the early days of Twitter, so really getting a bunch of high school age students to start using some brand new nerdy website was not the easiest, but
Right.
we do see, you and I can see where X.com is nowadays, formerly known the artist formerly known as Twitter. And you can see that, she did have that kind of forward thinking where even though it was a product that wasn't
Yeah.
really didn't have it going, getting that adoption, getting the ideas churning in people's heads. Some people really took it and ran. Um,
That's
from
super
from
cool as an
there,
English teacher.
yeah, she was a great English teacher. She's still, I found her on LinkedIn sometimes, and she's still pushing technology, and it's really interesting to see, still pushing the barriers, pushing technology in the school, getting that going. Um, from from there, I started working for a VoIP provider as just a little level one tech. You got to start off at the beginning again, unless you have a real nice resume. But we didn't have GitHub and stuff at that point to start putting things on.
Right.
So I was there. I found the backend systems and built a little self-hosted web page to get into the backend systems, so I wouldn't have to quite touch L2 or L3 all the time. And then suddenly that became the tool that was used for L2s and L3s. And and then we kind of, everything snowballed out of control at that point. Started working for an offshoot of Autodesk, doing AutoCAD stuff, and then built flight simulators for some time, and ended up in MSP. Um, just lots and lots of breaking into things, figuring out how they ticked, and then
Yeah.
eventually I realized that people, that you don't have to be a black hat to break into things and see how they tick. You can decide to be a white hat and still have the same fun. You just, you then get to make the whole world a better place and a safer place for the folks who don't understand how they tick.
Right. And do you think, you know, growing up by just that general curiosity of learning the intricacies of a system and then ultimately learning how to break or exploit those, do you think that changes the way that you really approach conversations with your MSP clients or the way that you look at different projects?
A lot of the time, and sometimes to a detrimental point. I do find though that I approach issues in the way of, this sounds great, but where are we introducing new flaws? Where,
Right.
you put on an awesome new Lego piece in your Lego house, but if you have a stack of Legos that are all the same back and forth, you just snap it right in half and you're good to go. That's a terrible analogy,
Yep.
but it works,
No, I get it.
if you don't really have the knowledge to understand, oh yeah, I need to kind of, you know, whatever the term for that,
So like overlap and layer and yeah.
yeah, layers versus just building up on top of things. Um, I do find that I obviously find that it's a bit difficult sometimes to convey these things though, and having to find all these analogies is really the ticking point.
Yeah. And so you've got a really interesting role inside of your MSP. You're the CISO, which, I guess would love to understand more about your role of a CISO inside of an MSP as that is not an I'll call it a normal position for your average MSP.
Sure. So I was originally brought in as a level three technician, an L3. Um, but I think kind of during my interview, I played the Uno reverse card. I said, "Hey, what's your Microsoft Secure score? What's your current security stance? When's the last time you did a penetration test to your environment?" That sort of thing. And I kind of just kept rolling with it as the time progressed, and got pulled into a vCISO position, not really a CISO to start, but it was more of and any security issues with a client would get passed down to me or passed up to me,
Mm-hmm.
and the tech could work everything else, but as soon as I got to a point where it's like, this seems like a security thing, or at least, Alden pretends like he knows what he's talking about, so we're gonna let him handle that portion. And then over time, just more and more internal jobs kind of got passed off to me, and then I started taking those roles, and felt comfortable enough to trust myself with the security of not just our clients but also us.
Yeah,
As an MSP, you are as weak as your clients are, but your clients are also as weak as you are.
I like that.
Especially as we've seen in some of the not recent, but as we've seen in some of the more recent attacks where
Mm-hmm.
a client has gotten compromised, the lateral movement hasn't just been within the client, but it's also moved up to the MSP, and then from there, it does trickle down to the rest of the clients, and that's kind of a single point of failure. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. And do you think your role as and so for context for the listeners here, um, you guys do a fair bit of not just fully manage IT, but co-manage IT, or maybe some VAR type services for larger enterprises and such. Do you think your role as a CISO really helps you relate or convey messages to your buyers?
So yeah, I feel like it does. That's me tooting my own horn. I,
Go for it. That's what we're here
we're in
for.
a we're in a very unique position as an MSP. We're blessed to have such a small, tight-knit client base where a lot of our clients know that our other clients are our other clients. It's not,
Hmm.
there's no secrecy, no smoke and mirrors going on here. Um, so we do get the knowledge of kind of working with small guys and seeing what they're seeing. Like you said, working with our co-managed clients, having some kind of really large relationships, seeing what's happening, in the grand scheme of things, and then really with the community that we have as MSPs, there's a lot of conversation going between MSPs, a lot of consulting that we're doing with other MSPs, and someone else
Oh yeah.
sees something really funny out in the wild, and they tell us, and by golly, we've got the same thing going on in our environment.
So you just brought up an excellent point that I want to highlight. So I I'm sure working with Brian kind of help push you into engaging in the channel community. Can you share or highlight some of the positives that you've gained from working with the channel, whether it's those consulting engagements or running into different challenges or problems that you leaned on your peers to fix or help with?
Sure. So, I mean that was really my secret ticket at my last MSP was, every morning that my first half hour at work, I would go and I'd sit on the MSP subreddit. I would go sit on the system administrator subreddit, kind of have to swim through a lot of the complaints that weren't very
Oh yeah.
educational, but there's always a ton of educational content. If a system goes down, you don't look to go see if if Shield's website says they're down.
You're
You
going
will go to
straight to Reddit.
the system administrator Reddit, and you will see people saying, "Hey, I think this is down." Um, and so yeah, that's how I kind of got really started in turbocharging, my knowledge and knowing a lot of things. From there, though, I did find that they actually have a Discord channel, kind of like, if anyone's not familiar, it's like Slack or IRC, or any of these online chat rooms of yesteryear. But um, there's a lot of conversation in there, a lot of learning, questions. If you don't know how to do something, but you think someone else may have ran into it, you can post it there, and they'll either say, "Yeah, here's how you do it. You got to do this, that, and the other thing," or they'll say, "Why would you even want to do that?" And sometimes you have a great reason, sometimes you don't, but just you've got X problem and you're solving for Y, and you really are not solving for the X. But the relationships there, both the helping and the receiving help, have helped me mature eons with my knowledge of the ecosphere, both how to do things well and how to choose the right thing to do.
Right. But also giving back, because I've seen on both ends, you engaging in the community of like, hey, I ran into this different issue, but also on the other end where I've seen people that are just completely lost. And, I see you type away, I go, here's Alden with the answer. And you just help immediately. And that's what I think is so powerful about not only engaging, but really embracing what we have here as a community. And I think a lot of MSPs miss the mark with, no, why would I want to help other MSPs solve that problem? And we've talked about it in previous episodes where there's enough business to go around, um, but it's rare that you find MSPs that are really willing to help. And I know we're in the bubble of the folks that are on LinkedIn here and different groups, but I think a lot of MSPs are actually scared to kind of open that door of embracing their peers.
Well, and it's one thing that I tell everybody who asks me about my job and doesn't, they're far separated from the MSP arena, is it isn't an arena. Like most other careers, you you don't find a plumber telling another plumber how to do, well, you find them telling them how to do their job, but not giving them advice. You don't find your local tiler reaching out to another tile maker and saying, hey, if you add a little bit of this to that, it's gonna be way better. But for some reason over the MSP area, because all of our clients interface with the other MSP's clients,
Mm-hmm.
I find that a lot of us are looking out for the greater good of, of the world. It's not just us trying to be the winners. It's, the rising tides. We want everybody to be a winner.
That's what I love about this space so much. So, on that note, with the rising tides, I do want to switch gears a little bit to something that I always get excited to talk to you about. You're someone who has just completely embraced the world of automation. I'm still fairly confident that you've automated all of your responses to my Discord messages. But anyways, not only for your own projects, but also helping those in the community tackle automation projects. If I recall correctly, weren't you leading a like international peer group for Roost at one point?
It was that's kind of fallen short, but it does look like Ashley with their team is trying to get that kicked off again. Um, and it was a few of us West Coasters because a lot of Roost's team
Right.
used to be on the East Coast, and trying to get East Coast times to align with Australian times is rough.
That's tough. So why is automation something that is just really piqued your interest? Why have you grasped onto it? And then secondarily, why is it so important that you share that knowledge with others?
Well, so I can't remember if this was Mendy Green or if it was something Kelvin Techelar had said, but they have really transitioned their MSPs from hiring, level one help desk technicians to hiring automation engineers and helping those level one help desk technicians become automation engineers because um, there's only so many hours in a day, but there's still a lot more work that's showing up. And so,
Mm-hmm.
if you're sitting there, you're resetting someone's password, Sally from reception calls you, they need their password reset, David from accounting needs his password reset. That's two times you've done the exact same task. Why are you doing that over and over again? Why don't you just have a button to do that? And instead of having to go log into a server, log into 365, figure out what system they use, you just say, hey, prove to me that you're Dylan. All right, you prove that you're Dylan. I'm going to reset your password and be done. Go and move on to the next thing. Uh, where that really helps is those of us who are kind of more in the product or project sphere. If you're sitting there, you're working on a project for 2, 3 hours, and then all of a sudden someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I need a calendar shared to someone." Suddenly you've got to take yourself out of your project. You got to go inject yourself into that client. You've got to remember, are they using G Suite? Are they using Microsoft 365? Are they using Yahoo? I don't know. And now I've got to start looking through all my things. Instead, you just here's the form. Go to the customer, go to the user, hit share. Make sure it's not already shared, but the form will tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
And just prevent the distractions so that you can continue working on the larger scale projects and not not wasting your time. And I don't mean that like you're wasting your time, but
For sure.
if right now if I look at my automations I have in Roost, it'll show me that I'm saving roughly 55 hours a week of my work, which is
Jeez.
and it it is a number that is realistic, unfortunately. Um, but being able to have all that data, on paper says, hey, I've saved 55 hours of my work. I've saved, countless hours of other people's work. It's not reducing the need for more employees so much as it is reducing the need to, spend extra time doing the same thing over and over.
Right. Dude, that's
And that's
super
that's one of
cool.
the
And
biggest that's one of the I don't mean to interrupt, but that is one of the biggest
no,
things is people are always concerned that automation is to get rid of people, but it is not to get rid of people, it is to empower people to do
yes.
more.
I like that. And being able to, and you talk about some of those projects that a level one technician would usually be doing. You can use those 55 hours in a week to train up those level ones to ultimately become level two, level threes, or automation engineers so they can work on really cool hands-on next level projects. I think that's embracing automation in the right way, looking at it through the right lens rather than, hey, I can, embrace automation or, leverage AI to get rid of my headcount. That's the wrong way to look at it. And in fact, you should be empowering your people to use it to gain efficiencies in their day.
Well, and putting it in a non-technical example, if I asked you to make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, gave you the peanut butter, jelly, bread, and a knife, and I went to go do it in the other room, we would not do it the same way. We wouldn't have
Correct.
a process. We might have a similar process, but it's not going to be done right, and if somebody comes into Dylan and Alden Brothers restaurant, and you're out, they ask me to do it, and I don't make it the way they like it, we're going to have an angry customer, and you're
True.
going to come in the next day. You're not going to know what I did wrong. Whereas,
And I've got
if
an angry customer yelling at me for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that they didn't like.
so if instead you can say, hey, we're going to squirt, uh, some jelly, on the top, some peanut butter on the bottom, and it's going to smash together and rub 3 times, it'll do that every single time. You apply that to making a new user where every time it's going to have, the first initial last name, it's going to have their manager set, going to have their applications installed the right way every time, but only take 2 minutes versus, half an hour, depending on who's doing it and how they're doing it.
Right.
You've got the process, and without a process, you can't have an automation. But a bad process is better than no process at all. A process can be iterated on, but if you don't have a process, you're just kind of winging it.
And then you can't measure, and then yeah, I I like this. So, what are some other ways that you guys have embraced automation, and maybe not only in the MSP world, but in your personal life as well?
Well, personal
That you're
life,
allowed to share, that is.
I mean, no, personal life, I've got a Tesla. Primary automation there is uploading dash cam footage to my NAS. Because otherwise I'm gonna have to go in the car, grab my USB, plug in my computer, copy everything over, put the videos together because they gave you 6 different videos or 7 different, something like that, and then remember to take it back out, plug it in my car before I leave. And that's a whole lot of work. So instead, I've got a Raspberry Pi in there that hooks up to my home Wi-Fi when it sees that it's by, and then it does all that work for me, and then I can forget how that all works.
That's sweet.
Um, I mean, it got like I use Home Assistant, which has a ton of stuff in the marketplace there for automations. So you can set it so for your morning alarm when you have your music play, it takes your bedroom lights and it slowly raises them from 0% to 100 over the course of 5 minutes instead of just full on, you know, got the buzzer and the lights
Blindness, right?
going. Uh, the sound in the morning that just makes you want to drink. But for office space stuff though, we do have we're starting to move our RMM away from traditional, and so that's all being automated, both the migration and the data aggregation, data updating. Um, one of the big ones for me, that one of the ones that really contributed to the 55 hours a week was taking all of our SOC alerts, anything that's uh, benign, we take that and we still want to have it for our records,
Right.
but that would leave me with, umpteen tickets a day to close out, make sure that I'm looking at them, make sure I'm like, oh yeah, wait, no, it says Dylan's logging in from the office, which would be great, except he got let go last week and he moved away to, Zimbabwe. Why does it show that he's logging in? So not having that record, as much as we love our SOC, not having that kind of information could be bad. But that
Mm-hmm.
was, I was at a conference recently and I was going every night in there and got to sit here for an hour and close things out. It's 3 a.m. I got talks in 2 hours. So I was like, I forget that. So I went ahead and built it out. So at 2 a.m. they all close and they all turn into a single ticket, which
I
is
like that.
it quality of life.
Because
Quality
it's
of
still
life.
there, so you can still go through in one pane of glass, especially for those like informational tickets. It's like, okay, I need to acknowledge all of these as a CISO, but I don't need to take action on them and, spend 2 hours closing every single ticket line by line by line. I really like that. You almost have, one report at the end of the day where it's like, okay, here's what I need to acknowledge. We're all set. No action is needed.
And the other big one with that is OpenAI stuff, which as a CISO is a weird place to live. I have traditionally not not used OpenAI's implementation, nor Google's, nor anyone else's. I do a self-hosted instance of a text generator, or whatever, not text generation, but text diffusion. But we are we're using that for setting ticket um our ticket importance, so we can let somebody just freely stick tickets in our system, not have them tell us if it's a system down or whatever. Just they put a ticket in, give us a nice little note. We chug through that with AI, and through automation, we're able to say, oh, this is a priority two, this is a priority one. We need to send a message out to Alden. We need to send a Teams message and a text message and an email, which it's all just kind of done via automations and APIs, and
Right.
it's really helpful.
That's super cool. I mean, talk about efficiencies gained, and it's not a big hurdle that your team has to jump through. Like you said, you build the process and you teach the team how to follow it, and you're saving yourself. You know, maybe it's only 10 minutes per ticket, but think about, and I say 10 minutes per ticket. That's quite a while, but it's like, think about how much time you're saving throughout the day, week, month, year, and you start to trickle down that ROI, and you're like, man, this is a good process here.
Well, it's that you touched on the big one, which is time savings. And if you're not the CEO, and you're not I'm going to quote the CEO. Bruce was saying this, but if you're not the CEO and you're making automations, you need a way to track that time savings, because that time savings is an ROI. It's almost invisible ROI, but it is very visible, in the fact that you're not taking your best brains and having them do the basic work.
Right.
Um, totally going to touch on something and I missed it. Oh, and also, it's done the right way every time. Even if the right way is wrong, it's done the way that you've told it to do it. Um,
Yeah. No room
be
for
that be
human
it
error
that
there.
you're not trusting somebody else to not mess up, and you're not trusting yourself to not mess up. I don't know about you, but I've had a few late nights where I've had an emergency hit, and I haven't done things quite the way that I would have done them if it were, 11 a.m. on a Wednesday.
That's a really good call because you start to think about, people in your help desk or, different technicians where they might have had a shit day and they're like, I really just don't want to deal with this customer. So they might delay that ticket response, which ultimately, delays customer satisfaction. And if your customers or machine is down or they can't get into a system, that impacts you as a business. But you've taken it to just like, okay, reset Dylan's password, get that over with. Don't have to interface with the customer at all. That's awesome. I mean, that talk about, employee satisfaction, not just client satisfaction. Like they don't have to interface with the, mundane tasks that they used to.
Or you get to something a little bit more emergency, like you get an employee offboarding where somebody has done something really wrong. They're not aware of it, but they're being let go of in 5 minutes. If you're working for a larger MSP, or even a help desk at a proper corporate company, someone's not going to know that this
Mm,
employee got offboarded. They're going to get this help ticket from them. Hey, I can't get to my computer, and are they going to like? They're like, oh, this is really urgent. I need to get in right now. They're not going to send a Teams message out, or Slack, whatever, figure this out. They're going to go, oh yeah, let me go ahead and turn you back on. Versus, you get an automation built out where their direct supervisor or the CEO or whoever can go in there and say, this person needs to be let go of at 1 p.m. sharp.
yep.
Then, if even if the world ends, and us as the IT aren't available, that person is still being offboarded, that they're being or onboarded. But it's still
Right.
being done reliably right at that time, which is which can be make or break,
And the
especially in
same
it.
way every time. So you don't have to worry about, hey, did I remember to turn off their O365 or did I remember to revoke their Canva access and just those random tools that you oftentimes forget about.
Do they still have access to the password manager? The
Exactly.
the things that let you sleep better at night.
Yes. Automations are the beautiful thing. So before we wrap up here, you've got a lot of personal projects that we talk about in Discord or I just see you interacting with. I want to take a second to highlight some of those cool things that you're doing. So any personal projects that you can share that you're really excited about?
I got really into Dogger lately, which I don't know if I would consider that a project in so much that it's just like a new lifestyle. Which, if you're not familiar, it's kind of like your VMware or your Hyper-V, but instead of hosting machines, you're hosting services. So I've got probably 40 servers running on just a little QNAP NAS. Um, and most of that just has all my projects in it or on it. Um, I'm looking at it right now. I haven't really done much. I've just been lazy. I've been playing too much Pal World.
Man, I have
Um,
not got my hands on Power World yet.
no, I mean, as far as just little things, it's a lot of trying to optimize my house so I don't have to.
Yep.
Um, like I said, I've got the lighting all set up. Just slowly trying to transition to motion stuff and you know get get my VR space more optimized. I am a big VR fanatic. Got a really close friend of mine who's building some hand tracking gloves that are very accessible. They're supposed to be all you need is a glove and a shop that has a 3D printer, and you are basically good to go. You don't need to know how to solder, don't need to know how to do any of that stuff, which is again very accessible and kind of
Right.
outside of the norm for a lot of the hardware stuff that you think of. Not having the solder is huge, because I don't know how to solder.
I suck at it. I learned when I was 15 and I haven't done it since.
Um, no, I mean I am just getting out of being inundated with projects for work, which is a blessing. But I've realized that now I have nothing that I am doing.
Now you're like, okay, now I need to find a new project to take up, my time from, 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. other than Power
I,
World, of course.
well, I've started doing a lot of stuff as Donald O'Trepley. Don O'Trepley is a great guy at our work. He deletes things and breaks things, and they all end up in the audit trail. Doesn't show up as me, and then I get to fix them.
Very nice.
Just gotta stay busy somehow.
Of course. Very cool. So,
And really just kind of hanging out with Dylan and the rest of the community and in our communities, helping people out with getting past their problems,
that's
getting
what we like.
getting everything going. We all love that.
We absolutely do. And I got to say, it's been really cool seeing you helping those in the community where it's like, yeah, I've built processes around this. Um, that's super cool. So, Alden, as we wrap up here, if people want to reach out to, you know, first of all, learn about the kick-ass human that you are, but then also learn about maybe some CISO activities and roles or all things automation, how do they reach out to you best?
Yeah, so the best way to get in touch with me would probably be LinkedIn. Alden Wilson. And if you want, you can find me on Discord, Lalden. But slowly becoming more and more unreachable there. I mean, LinkedIn. You can find me on GitHub, Lalden Code. Um, I try to keep that moniker everywhere, but otherwise, that's basically the best way to get in touch with me. Email is very much kind of third,
Oh yeah,
fourth
very
place.
private. Don't put that out there.
What? Well, I've learned that that checking email 3 times a day is kind of a good way to do it. You get your morning check-in, your lunch, and your 5 p.m.
Oh yeah.
You want my cell phone number? It's
We'll take your cell phone number, your address, just go ahead and spew it all out there, and
we get the last
people will
name of
have
my
fun with it.
social.
Yeah,
If you want to get a hold of me, the IRS knows where to find me.
perfect. And just give us your license plate so when we see you on the road and the Tesla, we can wave and track you down, and vendors can give you their sales pitch.
Well, how else are you gonna do it? No, Dylan, I really appreciate you having me on here, and yeah, I'd super happy to talk to anyone who's interested in kind of learning what I do or helping me, helping me learn what you do better.
Awesome. Well, Alden, thank you very much for coming on.